Hi, everyone. Lisa Haven here, and I have an extra special broadcast for you today because I wanted to bring on Justice Knight because he's been really diving through some of the death counts, not only with COVID-19, but the death counts overall, and what he has to show you in today's report asks and addresses the question, where have all the dead really gone? Is COVID-19, this deadly virus that is killing, I guess worldwide now, hundreds of thousands, but here in the US, are they being added to other categories? And that's kind of what we're going to look at and address, because what you discovered, and I'm going to kind of, when we get into this, let you take the angle on that. But basically, when you look at the overall deaths, if we take into account COVID-19, then we should have an increase in the death count. Like your typical death count, we should see a constant increase. So we're going to answer the question statistically using the CDC. Is that what we're seeing? And you're going to be so surprised by this report. But before I get into it, I just want to give a quick shout out to my partner at noblegoldinvestments.com. If you guys have not converted your 401k into something backed by gold and silver, I want to encourage you to do that today. So give them a call and let them know you heard it on Lisa Haven. All right, Justice. So go ahead and dive us in on, I guess, the beginning of this information. Where do we start?
Well, because everything we try to do, everything we both report on is statistically based. Now, you got to get past the sensationalized headlines. You see one here. One chart shows how many Americans are dying from the coronavirus each week compared with other common causes of death like heart disease, cancer, and the flu. Now, that's actually a very decent title in some ways, but it is raising the fear factor again. You'll see here a very traditional chart. The problem, and what you have to pay attention to, and what was really indicating out of this chart, is you see the straight lines of cancer, of heart disease, very straight and very consistent, and they have been for many years. However, now we have COVID-19 and enters in the high red spike, straight up.
So in other words, there should be extra deaths on top of the normal deaths because of COVID-19.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And we're going to put this all in this chart. We're going to show it very simply. First, we got to get through some of the factual basis of everything. You see death counts everywhere. There's more calculators now of death counts than we've ever seen before. This is one example. However, within this chart, and the most specific number you'll see is number of deaths per day, 7,755. That number is extremely consistent for many years. Here's another chart.
That's the number of people that die every day in the United States only.
But now we got to get to where they're getting that number from. They're getting that number from the CDC, most particularly the year of 2017. All these charts, including this one here.
This is 2020 on the screen.
Yes, well, that's because this is what they use as their model. I'm going to show you that. And they don't use COVID-19. That's new. But if you take heart disease, cancer, accidents, chronic lung disease, working your way down, I'm going to show you specifically chart after chart, same numbers. Again, heart disease, 1,700, cancer, 1,600, accidents, 465. Very consistent. Where does this information come from? It comes from the National Vital Statistics reports.
So and that's on the CDC website, and we have links to this. But going back to that chart you just had.
This one right here?
Yeah, this is showing, just to clarify, the deaths per day. So if you add them all up, it comes to that 7,000 whatever number. This is an average death per day. You can see this is screenshot from April 14th. But the 2,407 is not added into the 7,000, according to this chart, right?
Yeah, so you would expect.
But we're going to add it in a minute.
Yes, we're going to. And you would expect then, like Lisa just said, that would be added to the total 7,700 figure. Let's just put it round numbers. But we're going to prove out the argument first before we go into any charts. Here's what they all pulled their data from. I'm going to put this in full screen so it's a little bit easier for you to read. There is a ton of information here, but this is the total number of all causes of death in 2017. From heart disease, and you could see this all the way down to neoplasms, all the way down to a category that actually nobody classified, which is down here to be all other causes. I apologize as I'm trying to highlight through this very quickly.
But the overall all death count causes is that 2,800,000 number right here. This last highlight that you see there. I can't even highlight. There we go.
It's tricky when you're trying
And
to look
then
at these.
this number you're saying wasn't even calculated in
All
on the
other
CDC
causes?
chart.
No, I guess all other causes don't count because everybody in every one of these graphs do not show all other causes. But in some ways they're relevant because I do capture in the all other causes in all the graphs. So the other thing again, remember, great consistency year over year. This shows you heart disease. This shows you cancer. This shows you accidents. The reason why I show you this and why it's so critical is historically going from 1960 all the way forward. This stops in 2017 because that's where their data stops. Very consistent line distribution, which means you would have to carry that through to any model in 2020. Without doing that is very irresponsible and inaccurate. Again, multiple numbers, but we're going to start moving forward now to why we're going to highlight in on this chart more particularly, and I'm going to move you into some of the graphics that we're going to discuss. The first one here is where these charts start, and more particularly how they're doing a week over week average. Let's take one step back though, and I apologize. What I did first is we validated the actual CDC data. We took those charts that we just showed you. We moved that into the total number to assure that those heart disease and those cancer cases and those accident cases, as we moved on, are consistent with all the charts we've shown you. And guess what? They are. They were very accurate in reporting. Go ahead.
So to clarify, this chart is 1 week worth of deaths per year?
Yes, this is where it gets very confusing. This is technically...
So this is an example of, a statistical example from...
1 day.
Oh, this is 1 day of deaths.
1 day, yes. Because you see that number 7,710?
Yeah, that's the 1 day.
Down in the bottom, I brought it to the weekly average of 54, which everybody should be coming up with. And this is where the key is. So now you know that the CDC data has been validated. Every one of those charts that we showed you, and I'll transfer back over there. Remember the 1,774 you just saw in heart disease? Very validated within the chart here, 1,773. That is close enough, specific enough. Again, they're snapshots in days. They may vary by just a little bit. But now
depending on the day.
Depending on the day. So now you have all this pulling through. So you have to ask your question. Why, if COVID is killing the additional deaths, that needs to be reflected on any chart, and we should be seeing that true today. Mm-hmm. Where are the COVID deaths going? There's a very specific reason for that question. So now we're going to go back into the charts, and there's a lot of them. So we're going to go into the most primary one first. This is a basic count using those same numbers again. Heart disease. I want everybody to visually picture what's happening here.
The green is 2020 and the blue is 2017 to clarify. And then they're broken up by, you can see on the far left-hand side, heart disease, cancer, accidents, depending on what it is, and even other causes are factored in there. So in 2017, there was no COVID. You see at the top, it's 0.
Yep.
So if there's no COVID, that blue line at the very bottom, and I don't think they can see them. You have to highlight it.
No, and I'll highlight it on that.
But 2017 is at 7,710 deaths on one and just one average given day. That's an average. If the statistics are right now, based off that average, we should have some kind of increase in COVID, right? Because if a COVID is additional deaths on top of normal deaths, then we need to see an increase. Well, how many more deaths are we adding from COVID? Well, according to the chart that you saw on the CDC, on one given day, one example, right? This number for COVID has ranged from 3,000 some odd to 10 over the past 4 or 5 months, right? So 2,470. So technically for one given day, we should have 2,470 more deaths, at least on this 1 day for 2020.
That's a very good way to pull your averages.
So then technically we should have 2,470 more deaths at the end of the year total just for 1 day. But we're not talking 1 day here. We're talking 365 days.
You got to pull averages. And so we pulled averages. Now, this was the most in-depth portion of the study. You see 2017, 2018, 2019, and 2020. Now, I'm going to show you where we get that information from. Just be patient while we transition. There is a huge amount of information we're combing through here, and I'm going to pull this right here. This is the chart published by the CDC that shows you every single week from, and you'll see I'm going to do a drop down here, 2019, 2018, 2017, all the way down, and it gives you the total death counts highlighted right here
per week.
Yep, that is weekly, exactly. By week.
That's where you grabbed the numbers from. So everybody can verify there with the links below.
And you could pull through from week 1 of this year by moving this little slider up here all the way to current week. Now, we had to throw away week 16 because the data is incomplete. Week 18. The data is only 46.2% complete. You can't use that. That's not fair. But we can use one that's 99.9% complete, and everything forward is nearly 100%. You see the total death count. I know, for those of you who've been paying attention, just saw the total death count is only 47,000. We're going to distract from that's 1 week, the most current week.
Yes.
It dropped from 62,998.
But those are the numbers in the
1
chart.
week. Okay, so that's the numbers. And what I did is I pulled this through back to the graphic, and I did the work for you and for Lisa in this case, and we plugged in every single week, same period, from week 1 to week 17. So that's January 1st to current. And we plugged in the death count, total death count of each week. Now, guess what? You learn a lot when you look at charts. And just to make this a little bit easier for you, we're going to go up to something that looks really fancy, and that's that graph right there. This shows you week 1, week 3, week 5. Just look at the bottom all the way up to current week, and you'll see, in some ways, a great consistency.
Well, the red is not an accurate. I think we should start with the numbers above that.
Yeah, and I was going to get there. You want to go back to the charts here?
Yep. So we have showing what you see in the red is, well, I'll let you explain that, but the red is
no, that's a very good point. It's projected based on if you added in the COVID deaths, where your deaths should be is where you saw in the red. So if you look down here, where the deaths are, based on all the trends remaining consistent with which all the charts verified, you would have to add COVID deaths on top of those, which would make the red bar be the number. However, that's not what the number is. The number is sitting down here on the
color. The green, the blue, the gray, and the yellow are the actual numbers. The red is where it should be if COVID was being solely an additional death, they're portraying. So technically, we should have about 80,000. We're over that or around that right now for COVID deaths here in the U.S. So technically, we should have 80,000 more deaths on the total number of deaths to date. Do we have that?
No, because you see the bar right next to the red? That's the actual death.
That's the actual death. The red is where it should be if it was straight COVID deaths. The yellow is the actual. So do you see the falsity in that? But show them the chart above, because I think this is even more critical. Because here you have week 1. You can see, let's take week 1. You had in 2017 about 59,000. In 2018, it went up to 66,000 deaths. This is in 1 week. 2019, 58. 2020, still at 59. All in line with the average. That last roll.
Actually, significantly lower. Okay, so the death count of 66,000 in 2018. Now, the one clarification we got to give you here, this is very confusing when you see this last column that was created, 2020 with COVID. The reason this was done is we took the time frame for which they started reporting COVID deaths and then added it on top of the 2020 deaths. Remember, we've already established the baseline for you. The baseline stays the same until these new reported COVID-19 cases happen. We projected it right around week 10.
Right. So what we did in that final column is we said, okay, in week 10, this is your average, right? Then we should have if we had 10,000 that week, we added 10,000. If there was 5,000, we added 5,000, whatever the COVID deaths. So technically you would have 80,000 more. So our death count based off of COVID, which are additional deaths, should technically be at 1,126,939 with the extra death counts. The red that you see in that chart, or that you saw in that chart. However, the real number that we are at for deaths in the 17 week is not that. It's 991,777. That's the actual death count, not 1,126,000 that protected. It is 991,777. So where did all the COVID deaths go?
And if you really want to start questioning everything, if you look at when we went through lockdown, which sits right here, our numbers for those sequential months were actually lower. than they ever have been in history.
Now there is a spike, right? Let's show them the
No, there's
spike.
no question there's a spike. And I
Here in
delineate that very
2014,
Yep.
2015, and 2016, but then it's significant decrease
Yep, here's your spike.
in week 17.
Now remember, each year has a spike. Look back here, and let's go down to the chart right here again. And I'm going to flip this chart around just so it's a little bit easier for everybody to see. If we really pull through here to these years, that's 2018. There was a spike there also.
So the colors designate the years,
Yes,
right?
your first
the
years
separate
here,
years.
2017, 2018, 2019, and 2020.
So you could see that spike on other years,
Yep.
just like our yellow spike we have in the prior. Remember, the red is where it's technically supposed to be, but isn't.
Yes. So this is where the question comes in. Where are all the dead? Where did they all disappear to?
Well, yeah, when you only have on that chart, let me show them that chart. Pull that chart one more time. I just want to make this clear. So here's the total right here, all these numbers at the bottom of the chart, but you can see 2017 right here, we had 972,000, 2018, 999,000, 2019, 973, and 2020, 991. This falls in line with all the other numbers. And I think that's a massive point that we're missing. So if we're on par with the average death count, where are the 80,000 additional deaths? They're missing.
Well, they're missing, and that's the biggest challenge of what we face on a daily basis. Is COVID-19 real? Yes. Is it killing people?
Absolutely.
Yes, we get that. That's not what the point is. The point is you have to go after the statistics that they basically used against us to create the lockdowns and all the other wonderful things that have happened, being sarcastic, but their own numbers aren't declaring what they're declaring.
If we have, I'm just saying, if they're additional on top of, where are they? And we're using the numbers from the CDC. And that's not to I think COVID-19, obviously a very real disease. We need to take precautions for it, especially if you're elderly, right? But I think a lot of it is, like the CDC says, they're allowed to assume COVID deaths. That's from the CDC. I've showed you guys. Not only that, but they can also, if you have a pre-existing condition, you don't die from the pre-existing condition, you die from COVID, which would then make sense as to why the number is still around average. Because, but then wouldn't that suggest that that's just kind of in par with what we've been seeing? You might have a slight increase at time, like we did see a slight increase. I mean, I think maybe, give it a couple more months, we'll go back to the drawing board and look at the numbers, right? And I think that would be a good thing to do anyway. But either way,
because you got to remember,
there's a lot of information.
Average America is 3 years behind. Remember, the numbers that everybody had to use was from 2017. So America won't wake up to this fact for another 3 years. Not until 2023, 2024 will anybody see the numbers that you just saw. Not put together
because they're
like this.
delayed.
They're delayed on purpose. CDC has to get their reporting guidelines, but that's the reality of the numbers as they're declared. You can't look away from that. There's definitely something going on with the way the reporting's working right now.
Absolutely. Now, for the rest of this, we want to encourage you guys to get on over to restrictedrepublic.com. We're going to really dive into additional information, really critical and important. So right now we've got an amazing special, and the special is the word banned, BANNED. You can use it on the monthly subscription or you can use it on the yearly subscription. The monthly will give it to you for about $5.99 for a month, and then you can use the yearly, which is an even better deal, and it gets $20 off of the entire year rate. You're looking at about $60, a little less than that even. So this is an amazing special, our loss, your gain, but it's a way that you can go and get that critical information that you're going to want to hear about, because there's so much more that we share on there. So.
Because surprisingly, this is the short version. There's a longer version, if you can believe that. Also, if you haven't subscribed to me over at YouTube, I certainly hope you will. Justice Knight, she'll throw a link up on the screen, and I think we covered everything.
Yep. Well, thanks again for tuning in. I'm Lisa Haven, and that was Justice Knight signing out.